Day 3, let's go. Okay, good evening. I feel like I've noticed that maybe I'm holding the microphone a little too close because it sounds really close and like awkwardly loud. But anyways, the hardest part of my day was committing to a really scary parkour challenge, which I will get to explaining as my favorite part of the day. It took me probably roughly an hour to commit to, and my friend is a superhero for standing with me with a camera for about an hour. That was the hardest part of my day because it was really, really, really scary. And it was starting to rain, and it's at a public park, so there were a bunch of people watching me and getting in the direct path of where I was trying to go. Obviously, physically, but mainly it was horribly scary and difficult mentally. But I did it, which leads me to today was a really, really good day. It was the kind of day that I used to dream about when I worked at the warehouse because I did so many fun things with so many good friends, and I feel so very lucky and so very happy and grateful. It's a little hard to pick my favorite part of my day because, like I said, I did a lot of cool things. I guess I'll just say what today was because I make the rules anyways. But this morning I met up with a friend and skated for like an hour and did a little bit of parkour with him at the skate park, and that was cool. I enjoy hanging out with him and training with him. And then after that, I went diving with some more friends for about an hour or two, getting prepared for Canada, which is a whole nother thing. But anyways, diving was really fun. And then after diving, I went to the gym, the parkour gym, and got to train with another friend for like an hour. More laid back training, but it was still really fun. And I haven't trained with him because he hurt his back a couple months ago, so it's been a minute since I got to like do anything with him. So that was really fun. While I was at the gym, I set up a challenge that I wanted to do outside, and I did that challenge in the gym a lot, and I ended up leaving to go do it for real outside. And that leads me to my favorite part of the day today, which was doing a really scary, hard parkour challenge outside today. And it's something that I've been looking at for literally 8 years now. I've lived here all my life, and this spot is at a park that's like 3 blocks away from my house. So I would drive by this spot a lot, and every time I would drive by it for the past 7 years, I would glance at it and imagine this trick. And I actually did it today. It's real as of today. And another friend came in really clutch and ended up being my savior because nobody else could help film. So he met up with me just to film me, and it was cool hanging out with him because I really enjoy hanging out with him too. But that's probably my favorite part of today. And now I'm home stretching and relaxing and doing stuff I need to do and hanging out, and it's a good time. And this leads me to my random knowledge of the day. I asked my best friend what knowledge I might not know about that is either cool or important, and I think this kind of follows under the category of both. And I'm just going to read this verbatim. It's a pretty short excerpt, so I'm just going to read it in its entirety. So it's called The Space Shuttle and the Horse's Rear End. Say, friend, did you know that the U.S. standard railroad gauge distance between the rails is 4 feet, 8.5 inches? That's an exceedingly odd number. Why is that gauge used? Because that's the way they built it in England, and the U.S. railroads were built by English expatriates? Wow, I don't even know that word. Okay, so this is a little bonus day of 2 bits of knowledge. This is embarrassing because I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. I've never heard this word in my life. Expatriate. It's a person who lives outside of their native country. So obviously, in this case, the English expatriates were outside of their native country because they were in the US. Anyways, continuing this excerpt. I see, but why did the English build them like that? Because the first railway lines were built by the same people who built the pre-railroad tramways, and that's the gauge they used. Okay, hold on a second. I gotta switch Well, why did they use that gauge in England? Because the people who built the tramways used the same jigs and tools that they used for building wagons, which used that wheel spacing. Okay, why did the wagons use that odd wheel spacing? Because if they tried to use any other wheel spacing, the wagon's wheels would break on some of the old long-distance roads, because that's the spacing of the old wheel ruts. So who built these old rutted roads? The first long-distance roads in Europe were built by Imperial Rome for the benefit of their legions. The Roman roads have been used ever since. And the ruts? The original ruts, which everyone else had to match for fear of destroying their wagons, were first made by the wheels of Roman war chariots. Since the chariots were made for or by Imperial Rome, they were all alike in their matter of wheel spacing. Thus, we have the answer to the original question. The United States Standard Railroad gauge of 4 feet 8.5 inches derives from the original specification for an Imperial Roman Army war chariot. And the motto of the story is specifications and bureaucracies live forever. So the next time you're handed a specification and wonder what horse's ass came up with it, you may be exactly right, because the Imperial Roman chariots were made to be just wide enough to accommodate the back ends of 2 war horses. So what does this have to do with the exploration of space? Well, there's an interesting extension of the story about railroad gauge and horses' behinds. When we see a space shuttle sitting on the launch pad, there are 2 big booster rockets attached to the side of the main fuel tank. These are the solid rocket boosters, or SRBs. These SRBs are made by Toycol at a factory in Utah. The engineers who designed the SRBs might have preferred to make them a bit fatter, but the SRBs had to be shipped by train from the factory to the launch site. The railroad from the factory runs through a tunnel in the mountains. The SRBs had to fit through that tunnel. The tunnel is slightly wider than a railroad track, and the railroad track is about as wide as 2 horses' behinds. So a major design feature of what is arguably the world's most advanced transportation system was originally determined by the width of a horse's ass. Cool. That's actually really cool. Alright, I feel like that's enough yapping. I'm going to get to the rest of my stretching and go to sleep later. Day 3, super success, super awesome day. Honestly, probably a core memory is today, so that's cool. Until next time, take care. Peace.